Welcome, welcome everyone. We are live with Kate. And Kate, without further ado, we're going to turn the time right on over to you.
Great. Welcome, folks, to 2013, our very first business success call. And oh my God, we're starting the year off fabulously with Michael Hellickson. Michael and I have met virtually, and we met with a very good friend of mine that some of you know already, Tom Buford, who has a fabulous program. And Michael is just a cool dude, has done great stuff in the world. So you are on the Coaches Console Business Success Call, and we are so excited to have you. So let me tell you a little bit about Michael and the program we're going to have today. First of all, you're going to learn a lot about using a virtual assistant, using them properly. I know so many of you talk about, well, I can't grow, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. Baloney. I'm here to tell you, and this guy can help you as well, that getting a virtual assistant is the wisest thing you can do if you want to grow your business. If you just want a hobby, no worries, do it your own way. But if you want to grow your business and really have a true business, you've got to begin to hire virtual assistants to help you with the things, mostly the things you hate. That's what we do. And these folks love that stuff. So to them, it's like chocolate, and to you, it's fabulous to be able to give it away to someone to handle it for you. And let me tell you a little bit about Michael. Michael is not a newbie to the business world. And as you know, what we do is we bring to you twice a month on the second and fourth Thursdays people that have made it in the business world, people that know what it takes to be a successful business person. And Michael Hellickson is one of those folks. Michael, as you can see, has been on all kinds of television programs. He's been a top guy in the country for real estate. He knows how to make it happen. And one of the things he discovered is that without using other folks to help you, virtual assistants in particular, you cannot grow. You end up spending way more money and way more time, and you can't grow as fast as you can when you do. So he then started virtual assistant staffing, and he is really making things happen. And he's here to talk to us about how we can make things happen. And I know you're going to enjoy this information. So make sure you have a pencil and pen or something ready to write, or type into your computer, however you like to, because, Michael, it's up to you now. Take it away and teach us all about it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that terrific introduction, Kate. I really appreciate that, and I feel very blessed and fortunate to be here with you all today, and really looking forward to sharing some great information with you. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. First, I want to just define what is a virtual assistant. And, really, a virtual assistant is anyone who performs work for you from a location other than your own. In other words, if they're across the street from you, but they're performing work for you, they're virtual, as long as they don't come to your office every day physically to do that work. So there's virtual assistants that do all kinds of things, and you're probably already using virtual assistants in some form or another in some of the things that you're doing already. So we're just going to go into lots more detail on what they can do and how you can use them and all that good stuff. We're going to talk about why top businesses hire virtual assistants and why you should too. We're going to hopefully change your perception forever about what a virtual assistant is. What I want to hopefully convey to you today is that virtual assistants in the past, everybody's kind of always thought of them as low-level employees, people that are, it's some person in India that barely speaks English, and they can only do data entry and low-level stuff, and the reality is that's just not true. There are phenomenally well-qualified people in all kinds of walks of life from all over the world that operate as virtual assistants. And people, I've hired people with PhDs, I've hired people with master's degrees. We're talking, people from all different levels, high and low, and for every specific need you might have. So we'll talk about some of that today so that you can really kind of get your head around what is possible with a virtual assistant. Then we're going to talk about how to find the right virtual assistant for you. It's not just enough just to have a virtual assistant. You really want to have the right one. You want to get the right person for the right job at the right time and at the right price. And when you can accomplish that, you've got a huge victory on your hands, and you can build a world-class team just like we have. We're also going to talk about how to know whether or not you're ready for a VA or when you're ready for a VA. And it's important. Again, timing is very important, and we want to make sure that we cover that. So we'll be talking about that today. And finally, we're going to talk about how you can test drive a virtual assistant at absolutely no cost to you with no long-term obligation. So, I'll just give you just very, very briefly. If you go to that link that you see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a link to http://tinyurl.com/world-class team. Again, that's http://tinyurl.com/world-class team. And when you go to that website, there's going to be a form, or there's going to be a place for you to put in your contact information. And because you are a part of Kate's group, everybody that goes to that website is going to get to test drive a virtual assistant absolutely free for 1 week. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Right now, let's get right into our content and talk about exactly what is a VA. And actually, Kate, are you able to type? I don't know if Kate can type in right now. Let's just see if I can type that in. I'll send this to all. Someone asked me to type it into the screen, and hopefully you guys all just got that. I just typed it into the questions box on the right-hand side there. And by the way, just as by way of housekeeping, if you have questions during our call, feel free to type them into your question and answer boxes, and I will be answering those. I may or may not get to them in the middle of the webinar, but I will do everything I possibly can to answer everybody's questions, at least by the end of our webinar today. Excuse me, and I am recovering a little bit from a cold, so I hope that you'll bear with me a little there. All right, let's keep moving forward. Let's talk about how you can go, or let me start with how I went from being the Lone Ranger to being a world-class team builder, and more importantly, how you can too. Everybody starts their business, and Kate, you'll probably want to chime in on this as well. But we all started with nothing. We all started as just a team of one, if you will. Would you agree with that? I think we lost Kate.
Oh, yeah.
There she is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny.
-1, it felt like.
Say that again?
It felt like -1.
Yeah, sometimes it does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and everybody sees all these big producers and people like Kate that have these great businesses and that are doing all this stuff, and they think, wow, well, she's always had this big team. Well, no, not always. We all started with just us, and we all were the Lone Ranger out there at one time, and sooner or later we had to find our Tonto, right? We had to find our sidekick. We had to find that first person who was really going to help take us to that next level. So let me just kind of share my story with you real quick, and I'll do this fairly quickly, so follow quickly along if you will, because I think it'll bring value to kind of how that progression happened and how I came to the conclusion that virtual assistants made sense for my business and why. I always tell people I'm a recovering real estate agent. I sold real estate for 20 years, did very well at it. It was a great career. But I got to tell you, early on in that career, I struggled. And I was working 100 hours a week. My parents came to me about 2 years into it, and they said, Michael, you need to get a real job. Maybe you should go get a job at McDonald's. Maybe you'd make more money. And I got to tell you, I was a little unhappy about that, mainly because they were right. And if I had gone to work for McDonald's at that point in my life, I probably would have made more money. But I wasn't going to concede defeat yet. I thought, that's just not going to happen. So I did what you did. I went and found my Kate, right? I went and found the person in my industry that was the expert in what I needed to learn. And, so I needed to learn about how to sell real estate. And so I went to this seminar, and this gentleman that spoke and taught this seminar, he said something to the audience that I don't know if it had as big an impact on the rest of the group, but it sure impacted me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. Now I want you to think about that. And I'm going to ask Kate, I'm going to ask you to share your thoughts on this. But if you don't have an assistant, you are one. Think about what that means to you. Kate, what do you think? What does that mean to you?
Oh, my gosh, it is so true. Because I remember in the beginning of our business with the Coach's Console, Melinda and I spent time spinning our wheels, trying to do bookkeeping and accounting and all the things both of us are not good at and hate. And we got it done, but it wasn't done incredibly well. And it put us in a mood of negativity that did not help us do the things we were good at. So, oh my gosh, I get it.
Well, and the thing is, if you don't have an assistant, you're doing that work that an assistant should be doing, right?
Exactly. You're doing stuff you should not be doing. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Every business needs to focus, and I don't care what business you're in, there's the three most important things. Write this down. You need to have a pen. This is very important because it's not in the slides. You have to write this down. The three most important things that every business must do on a daily basis in order to survive. This isn't even just to thrive. Just to survive, you have to do these three things every day. Number one is lead generation. Number two is lead follow-up. And number three is lead conversion. I'm going to say it again. Lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. Now, here's the thing. If you're not doing all three of those things in your business, you're out of business. Think about it. If you don't lead generate, you've got nobody to talk to, you're not making any money. You can generate lots of leads, but if you don't follow up with them, nobody's going to become a client. If you don't follow through with those people and convert them to a client, you're not going to get paid. Therefore, you're out of business. Mother Teresa was wonderful at what she did. She would have made a terrible real estate agent, right? Because she wasn't lead generating, lead follow-up, and lead converting on a daily basis. So you've got to do it. It doesn't matter how phenomenal and how terrific your service is. If you don't do those three things, you're out of business. The problem is that so many people are so busy focused on working in their business, performing that service, that they don't spend any time working on their business, and they definitely don't spend time following up, lead generating, following up with leads, and converting leads. So what you have to do is you have to either do that yourself and offload the service side to an assistant, or you have to hire an assistant to do the lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion so that you can focus on the service side. Kate, does that make sense?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons we started the Coaches Console, because we knew that coaches started spending all kinds of time. How do I set up my business? How do I do this? How do I do that? And it took them forever. With Coaches Console and a virtual assistant, they can be out there doing the coaching, the thing they love best and what changes the world, because they have those tools behind them.
I love that you said that, because here's another couple of points you guys might want to write down. As you go through this process of streamlining your business and systemizing everything in your business, you need to focus on three things. Besides lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion, when it comes to the system side of your business, you want to eliminate everything that doesn't make sense to do. Then you want to automate everything that can possibly be automated. And then you want to delegate the rest. And when you can do those...
I'm with you.
What, say that again?
I'm with you.
Well, and that's what Coaches Console does, right? It helps with that automation piece. So they can go in, they can eliminate all the stuff that's a waste of time. Then they get into Coaches Console, and they get all their stuff in there that they need to be doing. It's all automated. It's all set up for them. Now they can start delegating to a virtual assistant. Now they're cooking with gas. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And by the way, it's always in that order. It's always eliminate first, automate second, delegate third. That's really important. If you do it any other way, it's going to be a complete mess. You want to eliminate, automate, delegate. Super important. All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. So this guy, he says this at this event, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought, yeah, this is crazy. If I'm going to survive in this business, I got to hire an assistant. I got to figure this out. And so I did. I went out and I hired my first assistant, and I got to tell you, I was scared to death. I had to commit to paying her more than I was making. And so good news is I had a credit card and I knew how to use it. I'm not advocating that, but it was at that point in my life, that's what I had to do, right? And long story short, I hired this wonderful person, and incidentally, 4 years later, she became my wife, and that's the day I always tell people that I went to work for her. So anybody that's married probably knows, and Kate, you'll appreciate this. We have a rule in our house that says any man that says he wears the pants in the family probably lies about other things too.
I love it.
That's the Hellickson household rule. So anyway, so Tara came to work for me way back in the day, and man, I got to tell you, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Not just because I married her, obviously, but also from a business standpoint, it was the best thing I ever did because she helped me grow that company to over 44 employees, and we subsequently became literally the #1 real estate team in the entire country. And I got to tell you, it was a long road, and it was a fun road. I enjoyed that business for 20 years. It was great. And I learned a lot of things that have helped me today and that have made it possible for me to do what I do today, which is exponentially larger than that business was. And so I look at it now, when we grew to 44 employees, one of the things that comes with 44 employees is a lot of payroll. And so our payroll was $125,000 a month. And that was kind of freaking me out a little bit. So I started talking to all my buddies around the country and said, hey, who do you know? What can I do? How do I cut back on my payroll expenses? And they started suggesting that I hire virtual assistants. And I thought, well, I didn't know how I would find them. How would I interview them? How would I hire them? How would I pay them? How would I, employ them? How would I make sure they knew what they needed to do? How would I train them? How would I make sure they were being held accountable? I had more questions than answers. I had no idea what to do. But I knew that my friends had done it, and it was working for them, and I'll be darned if I'm going to admit that anybody can accomplish anything that I can't. I watched a movie once. Kate, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Edge with Anthony Hopkins. Great movie where they're chased by that grizzly bear.
Yep.
Anthony Hopkins has a great line in that movie. One of my favorite lines in any show, and it's something my kids and I repeat to each other all the time, and that's, what one man can do, another can do. I'm going to say that again. I hope you all write this down. What one man can do, another can do. And basically what he's saying is, hey, look, if somebody else can accomplish this, if you put your mind to it, you'll figure it out and you'll accomplish it too. And so I just thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to figure this out. I'll give it a try. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, I can go back to my friends and say, see, I told you it wasn't going to work. So long story short, I hired my first virtual assistant. And I got to tell you, I was reluctant. And almost to my dismay, it went really, really well. And all of a sudden, my wife and my office manager came to me because, they had interaction with this person, and they said, hey, Michael, this is great. We both want a virtual assistant too, so get us one. And so all of a sudden, I had to go hire 2 more. And, oh my gosh, it went great. And so we started looking around the office, and I got to tell you, it was game on at that point. I started realizing, hey, wait a minute. I could save money. I got less headache. I got no drama. I solve a lot of problems by having VAs over the local staff that we had at the time, and I literally took that entire office virtual. And by taking the entire office virtual, I mean we got rid of the office. We took the entire office virtual. The handful of people, I think we kept 5 people on the team at that point that lived in our local area, and we made them go work from their homes too. And so now, everything we were doing was 100% virtual, and I'll get into some of that in a moment. But it was a huge paradigm shift for us, and it's the best thing we ever did with our business. Absolutely, the most momentous business decision I ever made, and the best business decision I've ever made in my life. Well, from there we went from $125,000 a month in payroll to just over $40,000 a month in payroll by using virtual assistants. That's a savings of over 68% on my payroll, or $85,000 a month, and I didn't have to sell another house to get that money. That was just straight into my pocket. Isn't that crazy, Kate?
It's awesome, and I'll tell you, our entire business is virtual. We have we've got a person in Maine, we've got a person in Florida, we've got 3 people in Romania. Melinda and I, we're all virtual. We don't pay office fees. We don't pay any of that stuff. So it makes a huge difference. So I am on your team.
I tell you, man, it's great. I can't imagine ever going back to the old way of doing it. I mean, it doesn't make sense in today's market. My commute now, I walk from downstairs to upstairs, and guess what? I'm in my office. It's great. I'm here when my kids go to school. I'm here when they get home from school. It's awesome. And by the way, if I want to move to Hawaii, I'll move to Hawaii, and my business won't skip a beat. Excuse me. So there's so many reasons why being a virtual company is super helpful. Now, even if you have a brick and mortar company, and some of you do, and some of your clients do, and that's fine. Those companies use virtual assistants as well. We actually have Fortune 500 companies that we're working for now that have obviously big brick and mortar offices in different parts of the world. But you'd be surprised what a huge percentage of those businesses are actually virtual as well. All right, so we saved all this money on payroll, and yep, that's great. Savings is awesome, but I got to be honest with you. If I didn't save a dime on my payroll expense, if I was paying the same hourly rate to my VAs that I was having to pay to my local people, it was still the best thing I ever did. And let me tell you some of the reasons why. One, by using virtual versus local, I do save a little bit on the wages, obviously, but I no longer have to pay employment taxes. I no longer have to pay Social Security or Medicare. I don't have to pay workers' comp or labor and industries. And oh, by the way, I got rid of all of the office chit-chat and all of the office drama. Now, Kate, I want you to tell me, do you think that offices have chit-chat and drama happening?
Oh my God, I've worked in offices before, and I'll tell you, there are studies out there. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but usually about a third of a person's day in an office is wasted at the water cooler, in the bathroom, or wherever, hanging out.
You are absolutely correct on that. And let me tell you, from an efficiency standpoint alone, getting rid of the local office, getting rid of local employees, and going entirely virtual so that everybody's working from home and everybody's time is tracked. Oh my gosh, we got rid of the chit chat, we got rid of the drama, and our efficiency went up. I calculated it, and that 30% is a very interesting number, Kate. That's very close to my number. I calculated it at about 25% was about what we figured our efficiency level went up at, which is huge. I mean, you think about those numbers. Immediately, you can eliminate 25% of the people on your team. That's huge. I mean, that's huge. So, all right, so there's that. Then we also saved on the office expense. Now, this is also pretty crazy when you think about it. We didn't have any long-term leases anymore because we didn't have an office. We didn't have any triple nets. There was no insurance to pay, no telephone, no internet, no office equipment, no computers, no copiers, no desks, no chairs, no cubicles, no plants, no lights, nothing, not even toilet paper for the office bathroom. I had none of those expenses anymore. They all went away. That is gigantic. It's absolutely huge. And so you really want to be thinking about this, and why is it that going virtual makes sense for you? Well, you may have a litany of other reasons. These are just some of the great reasons to go virtual. But let me tell you, one of my favorite reasons is what we're going to talk about next. Kate, let me ask you this. Have you ever been on vacation and felt like you were married to your phone or your email?
When I very first started as a coach, I did that. I kept doing that, and it was awful because you really weren't on vacation.
And especially for those of you, and I'm sure we've got a handful of solopreneurs on the call. And,
oh, absolutely, many.
Okay, well, this for the solopreneurs, this is the hardest for the solopreneur, because you are the chief cook and bottle washer. You're it. I mean, it's you're the whole 9 yards in your business, and when somebody calls and needs something, you got to deal with it, and that's a very precarious position to be in, and it's a place you want to get past that as quick as you can. In fact, I'll tell you this: when I started virtual assistant staffing, I went out before I had a single client, before we'd made a single dime. Guess what I did? The first thing I did was I hired 27 employees. Now, some of you are thinking that's insane. This guy's nuts. But that's what it took. I created my business plan, I created my business model, and realized, okay, I need these core 27 employees, most of which were recruiters, but I needed to have these 27 core employees to really make this business rock and really have it work properly and have great customer service, have a great customer experience, and have things happen the way they needed to happen. And part of that was for me to have a life. And that was when I created this business, that was number one on my list was I want to have a life. And here's why. My number one reason why every single person on this call needs a virtual assistant. Here it is. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Now, I'm going to say that again. I really hope you'll all write this one down. No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. Now, I'm all about making money. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about helping you succeed and helping you make more money. I think that's great. I'll tell you, for me, it's about life balance. Yes, I want to make a lot of money. I also want to have a great life. I want to have time with my family. I want to have some alone time. I want to have time to do the things that I enjoyed doing. And I'm sure, and Kate, I would be willing to guess that you probably have this conversation with your students on a regular basis. Is that right?
Absolutely, and here's the big thing, too. That's what coaches are all about, and everyone on this call today is a coach, I'm guessing. And we tell our clients all the time, and how many times do we feel like a fraud because we are married to our phone and email, and we're not doing what we preach? And it is huge. As a coach, as anybody, you've got to have that time. Now, I'll tell you, Michael, one of the things every single person I think is thinking on this call is, all right, that's all well and good, how the heck do I afford them? Most people believe they cannot afford a VA. What I know is they can't afford not to have one. You know that too, but you got to have to tell them about that part too.
That's great. I'll tell you what, we are going to talk about that. In fact, I'll talk about some specific numbers on hourly rates and stuff that you can expect with VAs. And let me throw out there right now, we're not going to be talking about I know some people are thinking, well, I can hire a VA for $2 an hour, and that's just not how I work. I don't go for those $2 an hour VAs, and you shouldn't either. The type of VAs that you want to hire, they're going to be on the low end. You're going to probably pay about $7 an hour, and for most of you on the very high end, you're probably going to pay about $13 an hour. That's pretty typical for really high quality VAs around the world. There's some that'll be a little less, or some that'll be a little more, but you're going to probably be in that range. Now, the good news is you don't have to hire them full time. That's another really neat thing about VAs. If you only need 2.5 hours a week, they'll work 2.5 hours a week. That's okay. If you need them 40 hours a week, they'll work 40 hours a week. It's very, very scalable, which is very different than working with someone in the United States. The part of it, too, is you don't have the overbearing and onerous labor laws when you're working with folks around the world that you do when you're working strictly in the States. So you don't have to worry about things like, for example, what if somebody doesn't work out well and you just need to let them go? Well, if it's a VA, you fire them. You send them an email saying your services are no longer required, and you're done. It's no big deal. If it's in the States, you got to build a case for it. You got to prove that, it was rightful it wasn't a wrongful termination of some kind. There's just so many advantages. But that being said, I really want you to know that Kate's right. It's not, can I afford one? It really is, can I afford not to have one? And the reality is, the answer is probably no. And here's the thing. If your business is profitable right now, and by profitable, I don't mean it has to be wildly profitable, but you at least need to be at the point where you've got some cash flow coming in, and you've got enough to hire somebody for, maybe it's 2.5 hours a week, or 5 hours a week, or 10 hours a week. So you do want to be in a position where you do have at least enough cash flow to pay that person, because what you don't want to do, you don't want to bring somebody on and spend, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 months training a person only to find out that, oh my gosh, now I can't afford it, I'm going to have to let them go. And, I'm going to have to go through that process again when I finally get myself back into a position where I can afford some help. That being said, the other thing you need to realize is once you get that help, guess what happens? All of a sudden, you take all of these things off your plate so you can focus on those 3 key things we talked about. I'm going to say it again. Lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. And now guess what? When you can focus on those 3 things, all of a sudden your business starts to grow. You're making more money. And for those of you that are coaches, you're thinking, well, Michael, I'm the coach, and I've got to be the one talking to the client. So how am I going to have time to do lead generation, lead follow-up, lead conversion? Well, here's the thing. If you're the coach and you're the one that does the coaching calls with your clients, then yes, you need to be the one on the call. I get that. Some of you might have other coaches working underneath you that you're subletting this to. Be that as it may, let's talk about the solopreneur for a moment. If you are the one that's got to be on those calls, you probably also need to be doing the lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. We can get you VAs that can help you with that. But let's say that you also need to be doing that. Then what you need to do is outsource everything else. All the little tic-tacky stuff. For example, you have systems in place probably that you would like your clients to follow. You can train your assistant to walk them through those systems. So you do the coaching call. You have your assistant contact them and say, hey, here's that form that John promised you. Make sure you get this filled out. They can follow up with them on homework they're supposed to be doing. Hey, Susie wanted me to follow up with you and make sure that you got your homework done from last week's coaching call. And by the way, don't forget to send us this, this, and this. All of that kind of stuff, all the follow-up, checking and handling your incoming emails and voicemails, all of that should be handled by a virtual assistant. You should not be screwing with that stuff. It's a waste of time. Kate, I've rambled on about this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I'm with you 1,000,000%, Michael. And the other area that I see virtual assistants are incredibly valuable is the marketing. A lot of virtual assistants are very talented in Facebook and LinkedIn and different ways to bring prospects to you so that you can follow up and convert. So, and to create some of the things that we all know you need in your business for marketing. A lot of the VAs that I'm aware of, and I know you know them too, is they know how to do that stuff. They know how to handle shopping carts and all that kind of stuff so that you don't have to learn it even.
That's a great point too. We've got some great web developers and designers, and that are very familiar with Infusionsoft and Aweber and Sales Pages and Splash Pages and you name it. And so there's no need for you to figure all that stuff out. You just need to be able to articulate what you want it to be able to do, and we'll get it done, and we'll make that happen. Now, I'll tell you another position that I've used virtual assistants for. In fact, I use this for my team today. I have several of these, are appointment setters. And an appointment setter, so I have all these leads that come in all the time. I'll give you an example. Many of the people, we've got well over 100 people on the webinar today, and a lot of you are going to want to contact me and you're going to want to talk with me. Well, here's how it's going to work. You're going to go to that website that you see in the upper left-hand corner there, http://tinyurl.com/world-class-team. And when you go to that, you're going to fill out the form on that page. One of my virtual assistants is going to call you, and they're going to arrange a time for you and I to have a phone call, or for you to have a phone call with one of my partners. And what that means is my day now, during my work days, I'm very regimented and structured with my calls. So 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, from about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it ends up being 6 and 7 o'clock sometimes in the morning, depending on how busy we are and how much I want to take on my plate that day, which, by the way, is completely in my control, right, because I've got my VA setting the appointments. So anyway, from about 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I sit at my desk and I get on calls that have been pre-scheduled for me by my virtual assistant. So literally every half hour, I don't even take a lunch break. I literally, every half hour, on the half hour, I have another call pre-arranged for me, so I can literally talk to you. And if I do it from 6 to 5, I can usually work an 11-hour day is what I'll normally do on those 3 days. So I'll speak with 22 different clients per day in an 11-hour day. How awesome is that? How efficient is that? And I don't have to worry about leaving voicemails or trying to track somebody down. They know I'm going to call at that time. They're expecting it. They want to talk to me at that time. And I'll tell you, that saves me easily 2 full business. In fact, it's more than that. I take it back. That saves me 50% of the time, because 50% of the time is just setting up the appointments. So that saves me, for every day I have appointments, I'm saving a day of setting appointments. That's huge. Does that make sense, Kate?
Big time. And it also is about they can make appointments for your prospects. Most coaches have set up their client calls with the client, or the client can set them up with their system. But this is about prospects, making sure that that prospect shows up for a call or a meeting or whatever it might be, and it makes a huge difference. Huge.
Well, the cool thing is, if the client doesn't show up, and this happens, right? Sometimes you have an appointment with somebody and they don't show up. So what do? You say, hey, for me in my system, all I got to do is I just type a note, no show. And my VA knows what to do with it from there. My VA then will track them down as long as it takes. I mean, if she's got to call them 20 times to get a hold of them, she's going to get a hold of them. She's going to track them down. She's going to get an appointment set, and we're going to do another call. Now, if they no-show on me, I have a 3-strike policy. If they no-show on me 3 times, they're done. We just won't work with them after that. And I would suggest a similar policy for those of you on the call, because you definitely don't want to be wasting your time or your VA's time. But the point of the matter is, there's a lot that they can do for you. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but let me jump back to this slide that you see on your screen real quick. Can anybody tell me, and type into your question and answer box there if you can, just type in, what mountain do you think that is in the background? And I'm going to tell you the story. So when I took the entire office virtual, when I got rid of the office, I got all my VAs in place, I literally took 5.5, actually it was almost 6 weeks off, and I took my family somewhere. And I want to see if anybody can guess where that is. But I took my family for 6 weeks, and guess what? I didn't check an email. I didn't check a voicemail. I didn't check anything. I mean, I literally was off the grid for that entire time, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely the best 6 weeks of my life. And so check that out. Excuse me. And why was I able to do that? I was able to do that because the virtual assistants were in place. They were handling my business while I was gone, and systems were in place to handle that. So I do see some guesses there. No, that is not Disneyland. That is actually the Matterhorn in Zermatt, Switzerland. And I got to tell you, You owe it to yourself when you're on vacation with your family, and I know you tell your coaching clients this, but you owe it to yourself. When you're on vacation with your family, be with your family. When you're at work, be at work. Make sure that you're fully present in the moment with everybody that you're with. That's very, very important. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about the VAs themselves. It's important to know that they come in all shapes and sizes. Their backgrounds vary, their skill sets vary. They could be good at data entry. They might be a telemarketer. They might be a web developer. It could be all kinds of different things. Their pay ranges, of course, vary dramatically. As we discussed, for really good VAs around the world, you're probably going to be usually in about that $7 to $13 an hour range, depending on what kind of VA you're looking for. Sometimes it's a little more like for web development needs. You may end up paying a little bit more. For telemarketing, it'll be on the higher end of that scale, but it's usually not. It's usually going to be for everybody on this call. You'll probably be right in that range, would be my guess. It also makes a big difference whether you're hiring globally or in the U.S. Clearly, it's more expensive to hire in the U.S. Another thing you have to be very aware of is just because you're having someone working remotely for you doesn't mean that you can pay them on a 1099. So if I hire somebody in the U.S., even though they might be working from their home on their computer, there's laws in place, and believe me, the IRS wants their money. And you have to be very, very careful. There's a litmus test, and chances are, in most situations, if someone is working for you on a regular basis, chances are they need to be paid on a W-2 unless they're overseas. So now, again, it's not up to me to decide whether or not you hire locally or abroad, but just know that chances are if you're going to hire inside the U.S., you're going to probably have to pay on a W-2. So make sure you check with your CPA on that and be very, very sure if you choose to hire in the U.S. Also, long-term versus project has a big impact on price. What I mean by this is if you hire someone, even if it's only for 2.5 hours a week, but they know that they're going to be working for you on a regular basis, guess what? They'll usually work for a little less money. Whereas if you're just hiring them for a project, and they know it's a one-time shot, and as soon as that project's over, they're not going to be working for you anymore, it's usually going to cost you a little bit more. So you want to be thinking before you hire the person, you want to know, is this long-term or is it a project? And you want to articulate to them, particularly if it's going to be something that's going to be a long-term placement. Because, again, you'll save money. Quality versus price is also huge. Now, I used to be a price guy. All I cared about was price and how can I get people for as little as possible. And I just, I felt like people were a commodity, and it was terrible. And I got to tell you, I got that kind of result. I got a result that reflected my attitude toward quality versus price. Now, that being said, if all you need is data entry, well, it's probably a price thing. But if you need a great executive assistant that's going to be talking with your clients, that's going to be handling your emails and your voicemails, that's going to be, making your travel arrangements, that's really going to be your right hand, you're probably going to want quality. And price is important, but you want to get quality at the right price. How's that? Or quality at an affordable price. And so just know going into it, that's one of the things you have to ask yourself. What is most important to me here? And it's kind of like you can't pick both. You have to pick one priority. You may end up with both, but you have to say one is the priority over the other. All right. So what are some more things virtual assistants can do? Let's talk about that for a moment. Anything that doesn't require physical presence in your office can be done by a virtual assistant. Literally anything. For real estate agents and mortgage brokers, they use them for listing and transaction coordinators on all the time. Bookkeepers, this is one of my favorites. Most of you on this call, and I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because we all know who we are, but most people, their books and finances are not in the kind of condition they would like them to be. Kate, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and we had the same problem when we very first started 8 years ago.
Well, and that's a challenge. And let me ask you this. How important is it to you to be able to see your profit and loss on a regular basis?
It's absolutely vitally important that we see it and discuss it weekly, and we don't have the time to put it together, but our bookkeeper does.
And I would be willing to bet that probably 75% or more of the people on this call do not have an up-to-date and accurate profit and loss statement every week. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that at least 75% of the people on this call have never had a profit and loss for their business. They've never looked at an actual accurate profit and loss statement for their business. And that's scary. And so, especially when you think about this, did you know, well, actually, let me ask you, at least take it another way. Kate, how much would it cost to hire a bookkeeper in the United States, to hire a really good bookkeeper in the U.S.? What do you think that costs?
I'm going to say somewhere between 35 and $50 an hour if they're independent.
And you are right on. That's exactly right. Now, would it surprise you if I told you that my bookkeeper is in the Philippines, and she cost me $9 an hour? And oh, by the way, she's the best bookkeeper I've ever had. For $9 an hour, man, it doesn't make any sense to not have your bookkeeping accurate and up to date all the time. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you have to. It's so cheap to have this done. You need to get it done, and it's the best thing to do because you've got to know where your money is. Most people think, well, I've got money in the bank, so I must be doing well. No. Well, there's more money in my account this month than there was last month, so that must mean I made money. Well, not necessarily. What about taxes? What about, I mean, have you paid all your bills? And so it's really important to have your bookkeeping straight. And VAs as bookkeepers are great. I love my VA bookkeepers.
The other thing you have to remember, something else you have to remember with a bookkeeper is that when you do books yourself, you say, oh, yeah, that takes about 10 hours, so now I'm going to hire a bookkeeper, and that'll be 10 hours. No. The bookkeeper knows what they're doing from the get-go. They're not trying to figure it out like you do yourself. So they probably can do what you did in half the time and 100% better.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And, that's the other thing. It needs to be accurate. One of the nice things, too, is when it comes to my bookkeeper, I don't talk to my CPA. My bookkeeper does. So if my CPA wants things changed for, so that they're, if things categorized differently or something like that, or needs some research done in our QuickBooks, they'll just reach out to my bookkeeper directly. I don't want to be involved in that conversation. Send me a bill. I mean, I got things to do. I got to go make money. I got to focus on my clients. So anyway, lots of great stuff they can do. Receptionists, telemarketers, and appointment setters. We talked a little bit about that. Search engine optimization, blogging, social media, website design and development, client care coordinator, logos. One of the things, I'll bet most of the people on this call do not have a great logo for their company. My virtual assistant, I've got a gentleman on my web development and design team who does all our graphics design. He makes really cool, he does those online magazines. Have you ever seen those online magazines, Kate, where it looks like a magazine and you can flip the pages and it's got
Oh yeah, that's great.
Aren't those awesome?
Yeah.
Well, so he does all of those, and I had Tara. I needed a logo. We have a new product out for the real estate investment community, and we needed a logo for it. And so I told Terry yesterday. I said, "Hey, get with our guy, our VA that does that, and have him create this logo." Literally this morning, he sent me 6 logo samples, and one of them was just awesome. One of them was it was perfect. One day. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it doesn't cost a lot of money to accomplish that. So why not have you got to have a professional logo. Very easy to do. Research, data entry, managing your client relationship management database, whether it's Aweber or Infusionsoft or whatever you're using. Which actually for Kate, it's the coach's console. I mean, if you really think about it, that's what they should be working in, is the coach's console, and your VA can manage that whole console, correct?
Absolutely.
There you go. Checking and handling your emails and your voicemails. We talked about this. How many hours a day, Kate, do you think most people spend checking their emails and voicemails?
I'll bet it's probably a good third to almost a half.
The last study that I saw was 2 years ago, and it showed 3 hours a day.
That's out of 8 hours.
What's that? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 3 out of 8 hours. And I'll tell you what, I would bet that number's higher today. And that was 2 years ago. So, now think about this. If you look at your emails and your voicemails and you break them into 3 categories, 1/3 is just junk, needs to be deleted or thrown away or whatever. Another third. The middle third is stuff that a well-trained VA could answer those questions for you, for your clients and all that. And then the top third are the ones that you and only you need to be dealing with. And so think about this. Essentially what we've discovered here is that your virtual assistant can literally take 2/3 of your emails and voicemails off your plate. That would save you. So think about it. If all your VA did for you was handle the emails and voicemails, you could potentially very easily be saving 2 hours a day of your time.
Yep.
I mean, what could you do with an extra 2 hours a day? It's crazy. I mean, there's so, you could bring in more business, you could spend more time with your family, there's all kinds of things you could do. But ultimately, there's no excuse not to do that. All right, and by the way, we are going to get to your questions. I see a lot of questions coming in. We're just about to where we're going to start answering questions, so give me a couple more minutes. We'll get right there. Managing your calendar, booking your flights and your hotels, building mobile apps, acting as your chief financial officer, project director, transcriptionist, graphics designers, teaching your kids to play an instrument. Kid you not, if you wanted your kid to learn piano, instead of driving them an hour down to the lesson and waiting an hour for the lesson and then driving an hour back home, have a great, a classical pianist out of Romania teaching them over Skype. It'd be cheaper.
Wow.
Oh, I know. It's cheaper and you'd get better instruction. And it's in the safety of your own home, so that instead of you taking 3 hours of your day to get your kid to the lesson and back, guess what? You can focus on whatever you want to focus on during those 3 hours, and when your kid's done with the lesson, go do something fun with them.
Yeah.
So creating full motion animated videos. We've hired VAs that do stuff like the Disney Pixar type movies, the 3D CGI graphics type stuff, like Ice Age and Toy Story and those kind of movies. I mean, super, super talented people. If you want to learn a language, have a VA teach you. I mean, holy cow. Why would you learn a language from somebody for whom that language is a second language? Wouldn't you want to learn from somebody for whom it's their first language? Makes sense to you?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's a lot cheaper, and you're getting one-on-one instruction. All right, so the truth about VAs, we talked about this. Some of them speak perfect English. In fact, many of them speak better English than I do, and if you don't believe me, you haven't been listening to how I've been talking this whole time. So anybody that's been on this webinar for a while knows that it'd be pretty easy to find a great VA that speaks better English than Michael does. Not all of them are from the Philippines or India. Again, they could be from the States. They could be, you heard Kate talk about her virtual assistants in Romania. We hire a lot out of England, out of South Africa, out of Europe. And yes, we do hire out of the Philippines as well. And sometimes we hire from India, not real often. India is not one of our better sources right now. But we do hire from all over the world. And oftentimes they require less management than local staff. Let me tell you why. We have time tracking software in place that literally they have to log in the morning, and it tracks every minute they're working. It takes screenshots of their computer every 9 minutes so that we can see what they've been working on. If they step away from their computer for more than 3 minutes, it automatically logs them out. And it'll alert me. It'll send me an email and say, hey, your VA was on Facebook today, or they were on HannahMontana.com, or whatever. I mean, you want to talk about accountability? It's never been easier to hold your people accountable than it is now. And it's so much more efficient than trying to wonder, hey, are these people in my office? Are they sitting there on Facebook, or are they actually doing the work I asked them to do? So.
And you have that system that monitors them that way? We
do. Yes, ma'am. And
wow.
Yes, ma'am. It is fantastic. And I use it with every one of my VAs. And there's a small charge for it because it's a third-party vendor that we work with on it. It's not much. It's $10 a month per seat. And so, yeah, it's super cheap. And so far, all of our clients have chosen to use it, and we love it. It's awesome, and the VAs like it too because it tracks their hours accurately, and so there's no arguing whether or not they actually worked those hours, because you can see not only that they worked them, but you can see what they were working on because you can look at the screenshots. So.
Yeah, it's not really about Big Brother. It's about keeping it clean and professional.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't go looking at my VA screenshots ever. I never do. But but if I wanted to, and if I ever spot check it, and sometimes we could, or Tara might spot check it here and there. But here's the reality: they believe you are, and as long as they think you're checking up on them, that's 90% of the battle right there. And if you ever have a situation, and this happens, sometimes the little hairs on the back of your neck go up, and you think, I think somebody's wasting time, and so you'll go spot check. And if you find a little discrepancy, guess what? You can delete that screenshot, and it'll automatically deduct 9 minutes from their day. So So
Wow.
they get the message pretty quick. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
And, with even there are days when I'm like, I didn't really work that hard today. So it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of accountability like that.
You're absolutely right. All right, and their work quality is often superior to local too, and the reason for that is because you can hire from all over the world. The entire world is your hiring pool. All right, so when should you hire a VA? Let's talk about this for a moment. When you're ready for growth, when you experience attrition, when you feel overwhelmed, when you need to save money, when you're ready to take your business to that next level, and most of all, when you can afford one. Now, again, you don't need to have a whole bunch of money in the bank to make this happen. It doesn't cost that much money to hire these VAs. The key, though, is you want to make sure that you've got a game plan in place so that when you invest your time in your money in hiring this person and training this person, you know that, assuming things go the way that they're planned, that you're going to be able to keep this person on your team long term. And so that way you're going to get better return on that investment. There's nothing worse than hiring somebody and then realizing, oh my gosh, I can't afford them, or I wasn't prepared, and blah, 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 and now I'm going to just let them go. Now, that being said, some of you might be thinking, well, I'm not sure I'm ready quite yet. Can I still contact you, Michael, and get in touch with your team? The answer is absolutely. Yes. Go to that webpage, that http://tinyurl.com /world-class team. Go to that URL and fill out that form and at least get connected with our team. And we will extend that offer to you. We do ask that you have a sincere interest in actually hiring somebody long term. Don't just call us up and say, hey, I want a free week of VA time, and then, I'm never going to use them after that, but, I want to take advantage of free. It would be nice if you at least had a, sincere interest in really bringing somebody on your team that's going to help you long term. But that being said, whether you're ready now or ready 6 months from now or a year from now, if you'll at least go to the website and log in and raise your hand now and get in touch with us now, we will extend that first week free offer to you, even if it happens 6 months or a year down the road. Just make sure you reach out to us today so that we know who you are and that we know that you're with Kate. All right. Now, how do you find the right VA? I'm gonna go through this pretty quick. There's a bunch of websites that you can go to. Obviously, we would love you to come to us and hire us to do it for you. And by the way, when you hire us to do it for you, my fee is already included in the hourly rates that I've told you about. So I don't charge you anything else on top of that. It's all included. And so that would be great. We would love to work with you on that method. Now, if you choose to do it yourself and go out on your own and look for them, there's some websites that you can take a look at. You've got Craigslist, Elance, Fiverr, 99 Designs, Odesk.com, Guru.com, Monster.com. There's lots of job boards out there. But there's something that's very, very important about this process, and that is never, ever shortcut the interviewing and testing and vetting process. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the right people. Now, that's something we do for you. In fact, let me just kind of skip to the next slide and tell you kind of what it looks like when we do it for you. We guarantee the results. In other words, if we place somebody with you and you don't like them, call me up. We'll get rid of them. We'll get you a different one, and we'll do it quickly. I had a client today call me up. He loves his VA, by the way. He just needed a second VA, and these guys have been big clients of ours for a long time. Called up. He says, Michael, I need a telemarketer, and I need him fast. I've got a big event coming up, and I screwed up, and I forgot to call you 3 weeks ago and get somebody on board, and I should have had him calling a week ago already, but I need him tomorrow. Can you make that happen? Well, yeah, we did. We got it. We made it happen, and he loves the guy. We made that happen this morning, and he's already been making calls, and they're loving it. We also provide you with that free test drive, and we've got this proven system for finding, vetting, and hiring these folks. And what that means is we go out for every position you want to place. And by the way, if you're going to do it yourself, if you're going to go to those other websites, you still need to go through the process that I'm explaining right now, because it will help you prevent making a mistake in who you hire. It will help ensure that the person that you get is a rock star. If you're having us do it, we just do it all for you. And so what we do is we go out and we look at 400 to 500 resumes. We interview a good chunk of those. And then the ones that we think are the best out of the interviews, we send them through a testing process. And it's a pretty robust testing process. We test everything from their skill set to their English skills to their we do what's called a DISC personality profile. As coaches, Kate, do you guys subscribe to the DISC? Is that one of the things you recommend?
Absolutely. We think it's a great program. There's others too, but it's a great program.
Yeah, and then you're right. There are lots of them. We just happen to use the disc because it's just what we've been using for a long time. And but it's as an example. We use that every single person that comes through this process. We do this disc profile on because I would never want to place a high I in an administrative data entry position, and I'd never want to place a high S in a telemarketing position, for example. So you want to make sure you're matching the personality types with the appropriate role. So we do that. We do English tests and connection speed tests, just all kinds of stuff. And then when we get all done with that, we take the people that came out of the testing the best and we run them through another set of interviews. And oftentimes we'll do a third set of interviews before we finally get to who we decided we're going to place with the client. And that process takes us about 2 weeks. And it's important that you go through the whole process because shortcutting the process, and it means you're shortcutting who you end up with. If you can stick with the process, follow the process, you'll be very, very happy with who you get on the other end of that process. All right. So we've talked about the one-week gift to you. I'm just going to mention this one slide really quick, and then we're going to jump to questions. But let's start with this. When you go to that website, again, it's in the upper left-hand corner of your screen there. It's also in your question and answer box. You're going to get a call from one of my virtual assistants after you fill the form out there. We're going to dig deep into your personal needs. We're going to find out what exactly is it that you want and need. What's going to make the biggest difference for you? Then we're going to send you out our standard agreement. And what this is going to do is it's going to protect you from from the VA because it's going to give you a non-compete, non-disclosure, which means they're going to keep your information confidential and all that. It's also going to guarantee me that you're not going to go try and hire that VA out from under us. And then we're going to go find that VA. We're going to spend that next 2 weeks finding that perfect VA for you. We're going to bring them back to you, and you're going to get to test drive them for an entire week on me. Then, when you love them, keep them, and we'll begin billing you after your 1 week trial period expires. If you don't love them for some reason, let me know. We'll get rid of them. We'll get you a different one. In fact, we'll even give you another week for free with the new one. As long as we believe that you're serious about, having a VA on your team for real, and you're not just, trying to get a bunch of free weeks, we'll keep doing this as long as it takes to make sure that we get you the right fit for your team. And Kate, did you want to speak to that at all?
My only question is, if anybody doesn't have a bookkeeper and doesn't have someone to support them on the financials, that's one of the first people that I would recommend that you hire, and everyone needs it because we don't know enough as individuals to really be smart about our business. So that would be the area, number one. Number two, all the things that you do would take each one of us 1,000,000 hours to do it, and then we probably would skip a step that we didn't even realize we needed. So to me, for what you offer, it's amazing. For the prices that you're talking about, all of that is included is so great. And again, stop doing it yourself. Start getting the right people in place to do it. You don't doctor yourself. You don't lawyer yourself. Then why the heck would you VA yourself?
That is so true. I love the way you put that. That's great. I'm going to steal that, by the way, and make it mine, just FYI.
Please do.
I love it. That'll be on my next webinar.
You got it.
That's awesome. I love it. No, but it's so true, and you want to get the right people doing the right things. I'll give you an example. We have a big old crawl space under our house, and our sump pump went out recently. And I thought to myself, I could go down to Home Depot, I could grab a sump pump, I could go replace that thing. It's going to cost me a little bit. And I had that thought for about a half a second in my mind before I thought, nah. I'm gonna get somebody that knows what they're doing. They're gonna go down there. They're gonna do it. I'm not gonna get dirty and wet and gross. I'm gonna focus on what I do. And when I have time off, I'm gonna go spend it with my family. And so, make sure you're hiring professionals for what they do, and spend your time doing the things that are productive for your business and that are beneficial for you and your family.
Absolutely. All right. Now, Michael, we're at the top of the hour, so I would love it. I know some people might have to leave, but I would love it if you would answer some questions for us that the folks have asked, because that's important too.
Absolutely. Let me do this. I want to jump to this last slide, and hang on one second here. I want to make sure I've got the website in big, bold letters on the screen there for you. There you go. All right. Now let's jump to these questions.
I have one question to start with. How do you know that your information, like if they're working with my billing or whatever it is, how do you know that they're going to keep that confidential, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, number one, because that agreement that we sent you in the very beginning has that confidentiality agreement as part of it. And we also have an agreement like that with the virtual assistant themselves. And so from a legal standpoint and from a paperwork standpoint, we've got you covered.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's taken care of. Now, that being said, I will tell you this. I wouldn't trust anybody with access to my bank account, not even my mother. And I love my mother. And so that is, you absolutely have to be very, very careful about not allowing anybody the actual PIN number to your bank account. Everybody has your checking account number. It's on your checks. I mean, it's like that's no secret to anybody. And when you set up your QuickBooks, you can set it up to automatically dump that information, your monthly statement, into your QuickBooks. If you've got online banking, so your VA doesn't need to have access to your actual bank account. They need access to your QuickBooks. They need access to the bank statement. They need access to your bills, and they need access to your receipts. Outside of that, you're good.
Yep. And with Coach's Console, they can use QuickBooks, and it dumps into your Coach's Console, and vice versa, and they can have access to that. That's
correct. That is correct. Cool. And so, that makes it very, very easy. All right, let's keep looking here. Let's see. Is there a telephone number we can call and listen in order to be more mobile? Oh, sorry, and I apologize. We don't that we didn't get that to you in time there, Cynthia. What's the cost investment range for a VA who, say, does lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion? Well, I would think it depends on the English level, first of all. If you want if you're okay with somebody with a stronger accent, you could be easily in the $11 an hour range. If you want somebody with a very minor accent, so let me back up and put it in different terms. If you want somebody like when you call Microsoft tech support and they've got a really heavy accent and you can't even understand them, don't call me. I don't promote those kind of VAs. So that's not my shtick. So if you want somebody that does have a heavier accent, you'd be at about $11 an hour. If you want somebody with a mild accent that sounds like they live in America, but they happen to be from another part of the world, you'd be at about $13 an hour. If you want somebody that sounds like they live in America and you can barely even tell that they've got an accent, you'd be at about $15 an hour. Or if you want somebody with a sexy British accent, which by the way is very popular, then you're going to be at about $15 an hour as well. So that's a great question. I get that a lot. So and that's for really high level telemarketers and appointment, people that really spend a lot of time on the phone doing this lead generation. They can make cold calls. They can set appointments. I mean, these are high level folks, and this is what they do for a living and have done it for many years. It's not your neighbor trying to figure out, or your buddy that says, "Yeah, I can make calls for you. Let me see how that goes." And then the first, they get hung up on 20 times and they get sworn at 3 or 4 times, and all of a sudden their story changes and, well, I don't know if this is for me. So, all right. How can you not have a copier or a printer? Well, it's actually really easy, Denny, and that's a great question, by the way. You just don't. Now, I'll be honest with you. I do have a printer. I can tell you I probably use it once a month, if that. Because everything I do is virtual. Everything. I mean, we are getting closer and closer to being an entirely paperless society, and I would venture to guess that in probably less than 4 or 5 years, you're not going to be able to go into a doctor's office or any professional. Even you'll go get your oil changed, and you'll be signing your name on an iPad or on a tablet, and everything's going to be electronic, and there's not going to be anything printed because it's a waste of resources, and it's not as efficient, and it's just better. Kate, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and Coach's Console puts them in a place too where you don't need to. I used to have files and folders and this, and now everything is online. Now, you want to have a really good backup system. No kidding,
yeah.
Because you don't want to lose stuff. But please use as little paper as possible. Let's save as many trees as we can. It really isn't necessary unless you're presenting something, and then you can always send it to a copy company to have it printed if you choose to do so, and they'll do a better job.
Yep, you're right. And Cena, by the way, here's a great one from Cena. Cena says, I'm paying $53 an hour for high-quality VAs. And Sina, we need to talk because that's crazy. I can definitely help you. I mean, that's insane. I can get you VAs that I promise you are as good or better than anybody you're hiring at $53 an hour, and I can get them for you for 15 or less. I mean, I guarantee I can get you somebody for 15 that's as good or better than anybody you're going to hire for 53. That's crazy numbers. So I really do appreciate you sharing that with us. Let's see. I would like to know how you're finding reliable and qualified resources for the $7 to $14 an hour range. That's a great question. The reliability and qualification is huge for us. That's gigantic on our list. And the way we did is we go through that process, and there's no shortcutting that process. Or Cynthia, I apologize. You have to go through that long process. And now, when I say you, we will do this for you. But either you or if you're going to have us do it, we will do it for you. You have to go through that process to ensure that the people you're getting are both reliable and quality. Now, I will say this too. More often than not, when I place a virtual assistant with you, we probably already have experience with that person. We've probably already had them working for one or more clients in the past, so we know them. They're a known quantity, and chances are we know. Well, first of all, if they were unreliable, we'd fire them, and we would never refer them out again. And so it's pretty unlikely that you would ever get a VA from us that would be unreliable in any way, because it would be the last time we placed them. And everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but the VA community at large knows that we're kind of the holy grail for these guys. They all want to work for us because we pay them on time. We pay them what we say we're going to pay them. We keep them employed. And so everybody wants to work through our company. And so they're very, very careful about ruining that opportunity, and they would ruin it if they disappointed one of our clients.
Hey, Michael, you want to get rid of that reminder on the screen?
Which reminder?
The one for Rob Quinn.
Look at that. I must have forgotten. Probably. Thank you for that. I must have forgotten to what do you call it?
Turn them off.
Outlook. Yeah. Sorry about that. All right. Well, good. So, and by the way, I know we're over time, and those of you that need to go, we want to be respectful of your time and allow you to go. But those of you that would like to stay, I'm going to stay on. We're going to get these questions answered if that's okay with you, Kate. Can we spend a few more minutes?
Absolutely. I'm here too.
Perfect. All right. I've always been that kind of guy. I'd rather bring more to the hour than I get paid, and so I want to make sure we get to as many of these questions as we can. So let's just keep moving forward. And another question from Cynthia is, do any of these VAs work on pay for performance model? And the short answer is no, generally not. I am not a big believer in a pay for performance model with most of these VAs because you end up paying a lot more per hour if you pay on performance than you would if you just paid by the hour. We do have some that do. We do have some programs like for real estate investors and real estate agents where we do some lead generation and that sort of thing for them, and that's a pay-for-performance model. But generally speaking, you want to pay these folks on an hourly basis. And frankly, they need it. Most of them would prefer the hourly rate rather than pay for performance, and the reason is they have families to support, and they need to know that they're getting paid a certain amount every week. Even if it's not a lot, they want to know what that is so that they know that they can support their family. All right. And I have a VA and have had several who cannot produce work as fast as I work. Oh, this is a good question. I like this one. How do we know that your systems can meet my company standard? How often can I change assistant if they don't work out? I'm going to start with the back part of that question first, and you can change your assistant as often as need be. I mean, if somebody's not working out, call us. We'll get rid of them. Now, that being said, when it comes to bookkeeping, Kate, you're right. The VA bookkeeper is going to be way faster than you're going to be with your bookkeeping. That being said, with a lot of the other stuff in your business where you're the expert at this stuff and you're like this, worldwide rock star at what you do, you're probably going to be faster than your employees. In fact, I always figure if my employees can do stuff 75% as quickly and as effectively, then I've hit a home run. And so the reality is you can't expect them to be as good as you are at the things that you're really, really good at. And because if they were, guess what? They'd go do it, and they'd be a coach, and they'd be making big bucks.
Not only that, Michael, one of the things you have to remember is even if it takes them 10%, 20% longer than you to do it, you're not doing it. Hello? and that gives you that time. And that's the thing it took me a while to learn. Well, they're not as good as me. No, but they're doing the work. And I'm able to do other things that build my business faster.
That is exactly right. That is so right. I'm so glad you brought that up. All right, and let's see. And tracking the actual hours we do with that time tracking software, we talked a little bit about that. How do you verify the hours spent were actually spent in the manner you were paying for? And the way you verify that is you go in and you look at those screenshots. And that's key. And I'll tell you, I feel like I have a better handle on what my team does now than I ever did when they were present in my office. Because when they're in your office, as soon as you come walking by, they click on a different screen so you don't see what they were working on, right? But they can't do that when I've got this screenshot software that automatically on a random basis is taking screenshots on their computer, and they don't know when that screenshot's being taken. So they're afraid to be on a website that they're not supposed to be. Oh, and by the way, if they go to a website that's a known waste of time website like a Facebook or a YouTube or whatever, my system alerts me that they were on that website. So it's just from an efficiency and making sure they're on track standpoint, nothing's better. All right, and we talked about the bookkeeper. Subject tutors, yes, you can get subject tutors. We've done that as well. I've had people work with my kids on stuff like math and reading and different things, and so yes, you can definitely do that. Are you promoting outsourcing internationally totally, or what about promoting VAs in America? And the short answer is, honestly, I find better talent at lower prices with a better attitude toward work. They have a better work ethic 9 times out of 10 when I hire abroad than when I hire locally. And I don't mean to sound anti-American. It's not that. It's just the reality is it's hard to find people in America that don't have that entitlement mentality, that want to get paid $50 an hour, to sit at work and play on their Facebook and text message their friends. And I'm just not that guy. I want when somebody works for me, I expect you to show up on time, do a great job, and go home. That's my expectation, and I have a lot easier time getting that abroad than I do in the States. So, will we find you an American-based VA if you want? Yes, but you will hear me try and talk you out of it more often than not, because I don't want to waste your money. I want to make sure you're getting as much for your money as you can possibly get. So.
And I want to also say, I work with several American virtual assistants. Yes, they're more expensive than you're talking about, and we've created great relationships, and I value them tremendously. It's a matter of where you are in your business, what you can afford. You maybe want to get started. You maybe want to have a variety of virtual assistants, which I would recommend as you grow and get bigger. Having a variety of virtual assistants is really smart as well.
I agree. Can your VAs create demo videos, like animated videos that draw pictures and create and the short answer is yes, we have VAs that do those hand sketch looking videos. So yeah, and actually they're a lot more affordable than you think. So a lot of guys are charging huge dollars. They'll charge. I think some of the bigger companies that are doing it are charging upwards of $2,500 per finished minute. On those hand-drawn sketch videos. We're a fraction of that with our VAs, and they're great at it. All right, here's a question for you, Kate. How do you keep a VA from looking at your client records in Coach's Console if she has access to work in my account?
Oh, that's a combination of things. Number one, again, we have just like Michael does with his VAs, we have them sign a non-compete as well as a confidentiality agreement. And then you have to know that once they've signed that, know that you've checked that person out and that you believe that they're an ethical individual. And that's one of the things that's great about what Michael's company does, is they check the individuals out first, double check on those kinds of things. So you have to have some faith in human beings, of course, and you want to cover your butt and make sure that they sign the agreement. I've never, ever had a problem with an overseas and or American VA with any of that information, and we work with lots of different people.
And I would echo that, Kate. I've never had a problem with that either, and we've got hundreds of clients using hundreds of VAs all over the world. So, but that is a great question. I appreciate that question from our audience member there. Michelle has a great question here. Are all the various tasks that you use your VAs for, do you have one VA that does multiple different things, or do you have different VAs for different skill sets? And the answer is it really depends on what your needs are. You can have what we would call an executive assistant who's kind of a generalist VA who can do a lot of things. They can make, they can do all your administrative work, handle all your appointment scheduling, take care of your emails and voicemails. They'll even make warm calls, so they'll call people that are current clients or people that aren't going to swear at them and yell at them when they call them, but they're not going to make cold calls for you. That would be a telemarketer. Your executive assistant's not going to want to make a bunch of calls to people that are going to swear at them and hang up on them all the time, but we can get you telemarketers that will. Your executive assistant is probably also not going to be a web developer, and so we can get you a web developer that will do the web development work. So yes, there is definitely segregation between duties in some things, but a good executive assistant can do a lot of things inside one person. So good stuff. Let's see. What happens if somebody abroad, if they do create a problem, if there is a problem, how do you take care of that from a legal standpoint? And the short answer is most of these countries these people are from, the laws there are so much stricter than they are in the U.S. when it comes to this kind of thing. Committing a crime in a foreign country, they don't get. Well, let me give you an example. I had a U.S.-based bookkeeper that worked for me several years ago. This was before we went virtual, and this gal, and she was writing checks to herself. Long story short, she embezzled about $40,000 from us that we could prove. And again, this was a U.S. local-based person. This is somebody that came to my office every day and worked. And this is the reason I got so passionate about security, by the way. We caught her. We have her on video camera. We had her dead to rights. We took her to court, and actually the prosecutor took her to court. They won the case. She went to jail for, guess what, 30 days and got 90 days probation. Woo freaking who. I couldn't believe it. I was so unhappy with that verdict. I thought, welcome to America. I mean, here this person commits this crime, and you hear all the time about murderers and rapists that end up getting out of jail for whatever. It's tragic, right? Well, if that had happened and she had been in the Philippines, for example, she would have gone to jail for at least 10 years, no question. It would have been a done deal. They don't mess around. I mean, it's a big deal. And worse than that, they would have brought in her whole family. That's part of their culture over there. They would have dragged her whole family into court and embarrassed her and her whole family, and she'd lose his face in front of her whole family. And for them, that's even worse than going to jail a lot of times. And so, but they do both. I mean, it's strict. So the bottom line is these people don't go there. They don't want to go there because they know that there's major consequences for them. All right, so do any of them work on proposal writing? Yes, we have VAs that do proposal writing. Sina says, we can talk. I'm writing my to-do list right now. Good for you, Sina. I love that. And by the way, that's a great thing to do. Go through and look at what do you got to do all day long, every day. For a week, just write down, just take notes and say, okay, the last hour I did this, and then every hour just go back. What did I do this last hour? Make a list, and at the end of the week, take that list and highlight all the things you'd love to get off your plate. And guess what? You just wrote your job description for your new assistant. That's how easy it is. Super easy. Can we get a recording of this call? I'd love to listen again with my boyfriend/boss so we can hire a bookkeeper and have my life back. I love that, Ashley. And by the way, remember what we said in the very beginning. Any man that says he wears the pants in the family probably lies about other things too. So you are truly the boss. Trust me, even if you don't realize you are, you are. And that's good. That's a good thing. We need you to be the boss. That being said, yes, we will have the recording accessible afterwards. I don't know how soon it will come out, but hopefully it will be soon, and we'll get that out to y'all.
I know you got another reminder up there you might want to do.
We do? My goodness. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Look at that. Appreciate that. And you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to pause showing my screen. There. Now it won't come up again.
There you go. Now it won't happen.
Yep. Okay, so we just got a few more. Do we have a few more minutes? Can we do a few more questions?
Sure, if you can, and we still have quite a few people on the call, so they're obviously very interested. So
yeah, I'm seeing a ton of people on the call still, so I want to make sure and raise your hand if this is helpful to you. Just raise your hand so we know that you're liking this and that these questions are helping you out here, because I want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered. Yep, I'm seeing a lot of hands go up. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see. Coach's Console is a particular management system. Are they going to be able to work with this system? Yes, absolutely. They can work with Coach's Corner. Um, can they work with Asana and Basecamp? Yes. In fact, our web development team works with Basecamp all the time. That's our main platform that our web development team shares what's going on is through Basecamp. Have we found VA for clergy? Yes. Excuse me. Yes, Annie, the short answer is we have found VA for several people. We've got actually several clients that are clergy in various aspects. So, yeah, that's a good question. You don't hear that very often. Might seem like a stupid question, but what would you use a VA to do? Mail, database development, entry, names on a piece of paper, business cards, etc. Oh, perfect. Okay, so basically what you're saying is, hey, I've gone to an event, and I've met a bunch of people, and I've got all their business cards, or I've got a bunch of scraps of paper laying around with their names and contact information on it. How do I get that into my database? Super, super easy. All you got to do, scan those things in. You just, and it's very quick. It doesn't take time at all to scan them in. You're going to put, 10 or 12 of them on your scanner, hit scan, put 10 or 12 more on there, hit scan, and, very quickly you've got them all scanned in, right? Then you just email that to your VA. Your VA takes all that information and manually enters that data into your database, and you are done. Super efficient. So good.
And with Coach's Console, they could also set appointments for you in your Coach's Console or to-do list in your Coach's Console if you choose to have them do that.
That's right. Yep.
Send them an email.
I like that. Okay, so somebody's saying I'm paying $300 a month right now just to have the content that I provided posted to Facebook, and I have to write all the content. Pretty stupid, huh? Well, here's the thing. There's VAs that just post stuff, and there's VAs that can actually write the content. And certainly you're going to pay more to have somebody actually write the content because you want it written in good English, and you want it to sound like you, and you want it to be high-quality content. That being said, there's a place for both. Some of you might want somebody just to write the content. Some of you might want somebody just to post it. Some of you might hire a person, and this is actually for some of our bigger clients, they'll actually hire like a 5-hour or a 10-hour a week person to write content, and then they'll also hire a full-time person to post all that content. So there's lots of ways you can go about it. Let's see. And how much would a VA who has experience with building your business cost? I might be able to only start with 1 to 2 hours a week. Our minimum time is 2.5 hours per week. So if you're hiring a VA through us, you'll need to use them at least 2.5 hours. Well, you don't have to use them that long, but you have to pay for a minimum of 2.5 hours a week. That being said, you can use as much as you want beyond that. Do you have, this is a good one. Do you have native German speakers with fluent English abilities? And do you have people capable of translating copy, not literally, but the essence of the content? And to that, Denise, I would say, ja, bestimmt haben wir Menschen, die Deutsch sprechen, und ich bin auch einer davon. So I don't know how good my German is now. It's been 20 years since I was there, but there you go.
I think that's a yes.
Yeah, that is a yes. The short answer is I've hired people that speak, Mandarin. I've hired people that speak Romanian. There's not a language out there I can't find. I'd be very surprised if you need a language. And when it comes to German, yes, absolutely, we get you VAs that speak German. I've done Swedish recently. I mean, you name it. So, and they speak a lot better than I do. So, so it's been so long since I've been there. My German's a little rusty. All right, let's see. Ooh, is it unrealistic to be able to expect an economical VA to help someone who has some orientation knowledge in my area of specialization? And the short answer is no, it's not unrealistic to expect that. I just need to know what your area of specialization is, and we'll go out and we'll find somebody that has some experience in that. Now, that being said, I always believe that you want to train. I'm a believer that life and success in business is about training your people all the time. You constantly want to be training. And if you'll do that, if you'll train, guess what? You'll have a successful business. Your people will be happy. And you'll be happy because they're going to be rock stars on your behalf, and they're going to know exactly what they're doing. And what that translates to is it translates into happy clients as well. So that when you're gone and you're on vacation for 6 weeks, you know that not only is my business being handled, but it's being handled at a high level. And that's important. All right.
And another thing about VAs is they become part of not only your business, but almost part of your family. because they get to know you so well, and you get to know them as you work with them for longer and longer. It's an awesome relationship.
You're 100% correct. I so agree with you. And it's nice because they're far enough away that they feel like family, but it's not like when they're right there in your office and you bump into them every day, and it kind of, sometimes you get a little of that friction and that, it's you again kind of thing. You don't have that dynamic. Here's another great question. Does hiring your company provides connections to eliminate the need for W-2 reporting or even 1099? And the short answer is yes. When you hire us, it's just like paying your power bill, right? So you're going to hire us, and we're going to pay the VA. And that way you don't have to worry about any 1099. You don't have to worry about any tax stuff. We take care of all of that. We take care of getting them their money, which, if they're overseas, that can be challenging at times, just getting money overseas to paying these folks. And we take care of all that for you, so you don't even have to think about that. So, and the short answer, and somebody's asking, is there a list of all the available services on your website? And the short answer is no. Think about this. Anything that can be done that doesn't require them to be physically in your office, I can find you somebody to do. So the list of services is as broad as your imagination. We can literally do just about anything you can think of. You just need to let me know what it is you're looking for, and we'll go get it. And let's see. Yes, we have the confidentiality agreement. We talked about that. And let's see. Well, answered that one. Hang on. She's like, oops, posted it twice. Yep, you're right. That's funny. Can a VA teach you how to use them? I don't know where to start from a bookkeeping perspective. Okay, very good question. When it comes to bookkeeping, for example, you don't need to know anything about bookkeeping. If you know that you need a bookkeeper, don't worry about it. We'll help you out. We will actually. They already know. They're already QuickBooks trained. They already know accounting. And what we do is when we set up a new client with a bookkeeper, and the client doesn't know what they want from a bookkeeping standpoint, they just know that they need the bookkeeping done, we actually have your new bookkeeper that work with my personal bookkeeper who's on my staff, and she helps your gal get your stuff up to speed and make sure that it's correct and accurate, so you don't have to even think about that whole process. So great question. And I did just a couple more, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there. I can't believe how many people are still on the call listening and participating. Thank you for that. Copy editing and tracking, yes, they can do that. Let's see. What about Satori? I don't even know what Satori is, but sure. I'm guessing it's if you could explain to me what it is, it's pretty. I don't know if that is that a programming language, is that a particular software platform, but at the end of the day, yes. If you can explain to me what it is, we can get to the right person that knows what that platform is, and we'll make sure you get somebody that's experienced in it. All right, let's see. Will Coach's Console have a class on working with a VA in Coach's Console? That's a question for Kate. Are you there, Kate? I think I lost Kate.
I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So the question is, will Coach's Console have a class on working with a VA in Coach's Console?
We could certainly do that on one of our Tuesdays at 2. That would be no problem at all.
Cool.
Great idea.
There you go. All right. Can a VA help with strategy? I need some help just thinking stuff through sometimes. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about overall business strategy, that's what you got Kate for. Call Kate for that. If you're talking about a web development strategy, hey, Michael, I've got this idea that I want to do for my website. Will the VA be able to help me really dial in how it really should function? Absolutely. Especially like our web development team, they're great at giving you suggestions on, hey, I would do this differently or I would do that differently, and it makes a big, big difference. So, and I love this one. Cynthia comes back with, she was the one asking the German question. She's like, Das war gut. Vielen Dank, Cynthia. I appreciate that. It's nice of you to say that. All right. And Coach's Platform versus Coaching Console. Not sure what you mean there, but I'll let you address that one with Kate. Kate, you want to give me your email address just to be safe?
Sure, absolutely. It's kate@coachesconsole.com.
Perfect. Okay. And do we have to train your VAs in my specialty, or are they already trained? Example, proposal writing, copy editing. Okay, that's great. For those types of things that you're talking about, you don't have to, like, let's say you call me and you say, I want a copywriter. they're already going to have copywriting experience. They're already going to know copywriting. You're going to have to train them on how you put your spin on it and how you want it tweaked and how you want it done. But they're already going to have that experience on how to do that. And same thing with proposal writing. You need to tell me, okay, Michael, we write proposals in the government grant space. Okay, fine. Or, whatever it is. If you can give me an idea of what kind of proposals you write, we can specifically find someone that knows those types of proposals. Great stuff. Can you find a bookkeeper with Canadian bookkeeper experience? Yes, absolutely, not a problem. And we do handle speechwriters, yes. Do you have any VAs with disabilities? Actually, we do have some VAs with disabilities, and if you specifically would like to hire a VA with disabilities, then let me know, and we can definitely accommodate that. And they love it when obviously, we love supporting them as well. So just let me know. But we do have some for various things that are very good that have various types of different disabilities. So you just need to let us know, and that's what you'd like. All right. And are your web developers familiar with Optimize Press? Yes. We'll put it this way. If it can be done on the web, they know how to do it. We have got a huge, our web development team's big. It's enormous. And we have very, very talented project managers in our web development team. And literally, I have not yet found any platform in the universe that we don't have somebody on our team that's an expert on it. And so, yes, we can definitely make that happen. And here's our last question, Kate. We're there. We're at our last question. VAs that can design training materials or process maps. And again, the answer is yes. And what I recommend from a designing training materials standpoint, the easiest thing to do on designing training materials is to do a webinar, or and just you create yourself an outline, go do the webinar, and then have the VA take the webinar. They transcribe it. They create the course. And you go through and you tweak the course, they make the edits, and all of a sudden now you've got your full course ready to go, and all you had to do is do it on a webinar, and it's huge. And that's how a lot of people create a lot of content very, very quickly. So with that, I'm going to bring Kate back on. Kate, let's turn the time back over to you. But I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for having me on today, and for, gosh, I can't believe how many people stayed on for a full extra half hour, and we still got a ton of people on the call.
Yeah, it's great. And Michael, thank you so much for being here and sharing the information. I know it's a big step for a lot of new coaches and even coaches that have been around a while to hire a VA, but you make it crystal clear about why they need to, how they can do it, and how they can do it successfully with you supporting them and behind. So thank you so much for your time, Michael, and it's been a pleasure.
I've got one last thing I just realized, and thank you, by the way, Kate, for making this happen. I realized there's one other thing we didn't talk about that's huge, and I'm going to send an email out to everybody about this as well, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, we've got a bunch of coaches on the call, and guess what? A lot of these coaches probably have clients that they would like to refer VAs to, and we didn't mention we have an affiliate program.
Oh, cool.
So, and by the way, it's a 2-tiered affiliate program. So it pays to connect us with connectors. So in short, anybody you refer us to, and once we get you signed up for our affiliate program, anybody you refer us to, you're going to get paid a percentage of every dollar we collect on that person forever. And oh, by the way, you'll even get a little bit on the people that they refer to us. And so, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. If you're interested in the affiliate program, it's free to join. Just, if you're interested in that affiliate program, just make sure you go to that tinyurl.com, http://tinyurl.com/world-class-team, and we'll get you set up on that. So, yeah, and I apologize, Kate. I didn't mean to come back and drag people back into the conversation after that, but thank you so much.
No worries. It was no worries, and I'm glad you said it. Affiliate programs are absolutely awesome. If you love something, just like if you love a movie, and you tell friends about it, why not? And if you can make a few dollars on it, as long as, everything's on the up and up, hey, as long as you believe in that, there's nothing wrong with that. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, have a great day. Folks, thanks so much for being here. We truly appreciate your time.
All righty. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.